Jeff Wood, who's my deputy on this, and I are working with the governor's office and the governor, and we're putting in the appropriate management controls to make sure we're doing what we need to be doing. Next is compliance. We've got to make sure we comply with all the FEMA guidelines and regulations. They're different than what we in West Virginia have dealt with related to response, because most of the time we deal with FEMA compliance, and there's differences and nuances in those. So we're working that particular piece of it to make sure we get that fully in place. The next is communication. As the governor said, we're going to keep transparency, and we're going to communicate, and first and foremost, we're going to communicate with the people who have been impacted and make sure we get them up-to-date information, get them back on track, and then we will try to provide you guys as much information as we can going forward. Holly from my communication staff has got a document that she can make available to you guys. Looks basically like this. This is generally the update that we gave the governor. So after reviewing all the cases in the RISE system, we believe right now, and these numbers could change because we're going to go back and talk to people who have been told that they may not be eligible, just to double check and make sure we didn't miss anything. We believe that there are 452 family homes that need to be addressed through the RISE case management system. There are still homes that we're working in the VOAD system, the one we had so much success with, who are people who are not eligible for HUD-related benefits. So 452, 129 of those we believe are mobile home replacements. And then there are additional 77 rental units that we're tracking, but what we've got to do is go back and work with the HUD system and make sure we understand how those fit into what categories and who's eligible, and if somebody who owned one of those rental units has already gotten an insurance payment or something else, we've got to go back and make sure we validate all those. So again, that deliberate speed. So this week, we were able to review 74 cases through those areas that we had. As we told you before, when we found this, there were 300 cases that were stuck in environmental. So we've reviewed 74. We've released 40 of those this week and 12 last week, for a total of 52 to go into the final step for construction process. That doesn't mean that a house is on the road today necessarily. Each one of those cases is different, but they are now in process, and there's communication with those individuals. So that's an update of where we are on those particular numbers. A couple other things that to make you guys aware of, again, from a transparency standpoint, some of the issues that we're continuing to look at and tracking this. Duplication of benefits. That's where somebody may have received money from FEMA, was in the RISE system, didn't necessarily show that they received FEMA-related dollars. We've got to go back and adjust all that. Otherwise, if we went through and just pushed this and pushed that out to somebody, and we gave them the HUD housing, then FEMA's going to come back and say, hey, you need to write us a check back for the money, because that's not the way the system works. So again, deliberate speed and taking care of that. We found a couple of houses in the system that were projected to be launched out that actually sit not in the floodplain, but in the floodway. There's a federal requirement that you don't put houses back in the floodway. And number two, why would we put people back in a floodway, which is the fastest point in the floodplain at which water flows? So what we've got to do is go back with those particular cases and work with those families and figure out how we're going to address that through a buyout program and then a movement. So again, I'm trying to give you guys what we're dealing with to make sure that you guys understand the complexity of what's going on. Change orders. There were some change orders related to initial things that were in the system that had a change order to it that by initial look I'm not comfortable with. being able to go back to the governor and say, hey, that's good to go. We need to look at some of those things. One of those relates to ADA compliance packages. So a mobile home unit's in the system, then there comes along a change order for an ADA compliance change order. Can you show me where the requirement is for the ADA compliance? Those are things that I want to make sure we get right, because again, what happens to us and what happens to the governor is 2 years down the road, HUD's coming back saying, Governor, you've got to pay money back because you didn't do this right. So again, it goes back to why the governor did what he did to get us involved to work through this thing. I mentioned the 77 rental units that we've got to work through. And then, as I told you, we're going to focus next week primarily on, now that we've got the case management process flowing the way we believe it should be, we're going to focus on those management controls and compliance piece. Other things we have going on related to this program. We're finalizing a demolition contract for dilapidated structures. We'll work that through purchasing, hopefully get that out here expeditiously, because as the governor pointed out in one of the other events, you take those dilapidated structures down in those neighborhoods, it improves property values, and it gets people thinking again that we're on the move again and we're cleaning up and we're moving forward. So we can't just focus on housing, we got to focus on that too, because it's whole of communities and making these communities whole for the future. The housing contracts that are in place with the contractors to build or replace the mobile homes were entered into last July for a 1-year period. So we've got between now and June 30th to work through the extension process that's available in those contracts so that we can keep the flow going. And we're also looking at and having some discussions is, do we need to put out for bid some additional housing construction contracts? All that's going on from a guard perspective, while at the same time, if it's okay, I'll brag a little bit on the guard. While we've got people in 19 countries, I've got units deploying in the theater, we've got airplanes leaving Martinsburg every week going overseas doing the medical evacuation mission. We're doing search and rescue training at Camp Dawson with our helicopters and our new Swiftwater rescue team, so that God forbid we have to respond to another one of these. We've got more capacity to get people out quicker. And working on training areas, and I'm trying to get as soon as the governor has the opportunity to brief him on some growth that the Guard's going to have in the future. So all those things going on, nobody from the Guard's complaining. Well, we're prepared to execute what missions we need to. So, Governor, I'm happy to take any questions they have before I go to Challenge Academy.
The general's got to leave, and so if we could direct any questions that you may have, in regard to the flood relief or whatever to the general, you can, please do.
General, how much of a focus is there on any possible fraud or abuse? Because anytime you get millions of dollars in federal money, state money, you've got to look around the edges to see what's going on. And I didn't hear you mention any of that. Is that a guard thing, or is that since you're administering the program? Where does that fall in?
Where we will identify some of the things that could potentially exist that you just talked about will come into this compliance piece. So we're going to be responsible for helping make sure we get all that in place, and then if we find something that's irregular, then obviously I bring it to the boss and he moves it through the appropriate process where it needs to go. But compliance and management controls are going to help us address was there an issue with certain activities.
If I could add to that, yesterday at the governor's direction, we've added 4 forensic investigators that will be working at Commerce from one of our other agencies. In addition to that, we have the leadership of the legislature. They're going to be conducting an audit, but what we offer is, I think, the first time ever from the administration, is to work collaboratively with the Legislative Auditor's Office to allow them to actually bring people into Commerce and discover this stuff real time rather than provide information to them after the fact. So we're hoping even they can help us find out if anything like that's going on.
Gentlemen, the Mayor Clendenin, Jane Clendenin, delivered a letter, a 2-page letter to the governor's office the other day, expressing just exasperated frustration at this process, meetings she's had with Jimmy Jeanette and other people that were supposed to resolve things, and nothing's gotten done. And basically, I think the essence of her letter is that she'd like to see him removed or replaced or something. Is he remain in good standing with this administration, or are there going to be more changes?
Absolutely, Jimmy remains in good standing with me, you know, but maybe, General, you could speak about this.
Yes, right. So the letter's been received. There's been an initial meeting with the mayor from some folks from emergency management. There'll be follow-on meetings next week, not just with state emergency management, but there's been FEMA folks involved in working. And we understand the frustration, and we're going to continue to work through the issues to help the mayor and the town of Clendenin. I'm an Elk River kid, so we're going to make sure we get things focused where they need to be.
Does anyone just not qualify for RISE funds because they're in the floodplain or the floodway? It looked like that came up in some emails.
They can be qualified for HUD funding in both the floodplain, and they could be qualified for replacement if their home was in the floodway, but you would have to move them out of the floodway. Does that make sense?
So the replacement home would have to be out of the floodway.
Out of the floodway. And in the floodplain requirements, you've got to be above the floodplain by a certain number of feet and inches. And the other thing that we have to pay attention to related to that, so people out there understand, is if you put homes back in the floodplain and you don't bring them up above the requirement, it impacts everybody's flood insurance rates throughout that entire area. If you put somebody in the floodway, not only are you endangering them in the future if we have an event like this, but you're impacting everybody's insurance rates in an entire area, normally a county at least.
The flood warning that's been the topic of discussion was supposed to be administered by Commerce, which is why they're still involved. But how has it been for you as the General of the National Guard to work with Commerce over the last week or so?
Everything's working fine because the governor gave a directive that this is the way it's going to work, and it's working that way. And if I have a problem, which I haven't, everybody's been exceptionally cooperative and working together and trying to do the right thing. But if I haven't, I can go to him and adjust that. Another point to make too, when I got asked to do this, again, I want to reinforce that when we started to look at it, and we found that first 300 in the queue that were sitting there was not, that I am aware of and that we have found to this point, there was not a single home in a construction process that stopped related to his action to say, hold on, let's make sure we got this right. There were actually, during that period of time, there were homes that were delivered from the prior piece. So my look at it, there were lots of stuff stuck in the queue that still needed to clear environmental and other things, but there wasn't one that we found that that we immediately turned on something the next day and it released the house. You're looking a little like I'm
School crash in Clay County. Everything stopped for his house. They put everything into his water and his porch and everything stopped. So I'm aware of that. But he's now
related to the environmental process.
No, it was to his porch and his water. they'd already done it, his home was there.
Okay.
He had a key, they wouldn't give him a key, he couldn't get in. So there may be.
Because of the sewer.
No, because the water wasn't hooked up and,
Okay.
and his porch wasn't on. He is now in his house.
Right.
We contacted our contractors yesterday. Not one of the contractors could say they had a home under construction at this time. That could have been one of the other programs. There's a couple others we can discuss details. It's too complicated here. But under that, there was not one contractor that can say on February the 28th they had a home under construction, that they had one ready to go right now, that we turned, and the switch is back on. But as we turned the switch back on, there was not one where you can say, okay, today we're going to start digging the footer.
And I'll have Jeff look at that one, maybe I missed one, but in Mass in particular, there was not a large number of, so the big hangup was primarily 300 sitting in environmental review. That was everything from septic tanks to historical preservation to this Fish and Wildlife Service sign-off that when we dug into it, we found out we had the exemption from Fish and Wildlife, and it was sitting in a file, and it just needed to be pulled out and said, hey, this is clear.
And that underscores that, our point that I made, Brad, there not the information contained in that memorandum from RISE was not correct. And yesterday, we talked with individuals that were responsible for that memo at the Commerce Department. They advised that data came from the local person, the contractor, that they weren't personally familiar with those numbers being accurate or not. They now know those numbers not to be accurate, although they say that it wasn't their intent to deceive. That actually would be the case. So, for instance, I told myself, tomorrow we're going to have a press conference. We'll put a van in the parking lot. We'll put the reporters in it, and I expect you two guys to come out, and we're going to go for a ride, and they'll show us where these homes are. They put their hands down. There are no homes. They're not ready. They're not there. So even if we put a pause and said, again, as soon as that was turned off, then today the homes should be there ready to be built. He'll tell you, they're not in that system and ready to be built.
So a couple other things, and Kenny, you mentioned it earlier, and I forgot to bring it up. So Monday, Holly will push out to everybody. There is going to be, there was initially started and then somehow it turned off, but we're going to get it turned back on. There will be a fraud hotline number. And I will tell you that we've had discussions about this. I appreciate the work that you guys have done, because you all push information to us that when we went to make this thing right, we didn't necessarily have visibility on. So I appreciate that piece of it. If there's more that come, Holly, you get a hold of Holly, she'll get a hold of me, and we'll work. We had a list from a number of different legislators who brought us, can you check on these? There was one particular case where we checked on, and we found out that the individual had purchased the property after the flood. Well, it's not eligible because it was purchased after the flood. So.
All this discussion started with scrutiny of this Horn contract, which I think the scope was going to be trimmed and it was going to go back into action. What's the status of the contract?
It's very near completion of that. The negotiations are nearing an end. We expect to make a request of purchasing in the next couple of days. Yeah, the scope of services are not going to be trimmed much. What was trimmed is the fee.
Are you working just with Commerce to do RISE, or because if you call Commerce for any kind of comment, they say contact General Hoyer, generally speaking. You're just working through the right here?
I think I'm just the RISE guy.
So they're still able to should be handling other inquiries if we have commerce-related questions.
But we got so many conflicting things before. It seems like the general, which now is in charge and we're moving things forward like we've never moved before, he ought to be the one to answer the question. Let me say one thing that both these gentlemen have said. I didn't have a clue that they were going to say it. But let me just dumb it down for me. Let's just think about this just a second. So, what they both said is the pause that everybody screamed to the mountains and said, you know, what have we done? We've had people waiting, and this has caused a delay, and this has caused issues and everything. Both of them have just said the pause really, really didn't slow anything down. Not a thing. Did you not just say that?
Yes, but from what I was able to find, Governor, I did not.
Did you not say the
Yeah,
thing?
the things they were claiming were ready to go. It turned out there was some signing of contracts and things of that nature were going to take place, but as far as there was no construction anywhere.
But there were some things that slowed down. Environmental slowed down in some instances, correct? Some of the processes did stop.
But let's be fair now. Be fair. In the magnitude of something that's this size, you're going to be able to find a bump somewhere. I mean, an exception somewhere. But let's just be fair, and let's just say, what did we gain by the pause? What did we gain? We gained millions of dollars that we're going to save for our state. No question was about that. I mean, there's hands down millions that we would have thrown away that we can use for flood victims and use to help those that need help in every way. We guarantee we did that. The other thing we did is we uncovered all kinds of improprieties, to say it very mildly, you know, to where people were being told things that were not true and everything else. And we basically uncovered all kinds of things that now we are moving at a speed that wasn't being moved at before, you know. And in that, the pause, these people are saying, for the most part, for all that they know, for the most part, really and truly, the pause didn't really take away from anyone. And so, if we'll just be fair and say, well, was the pause beneficial? Was the pause the right thing to do? Well, of course it was the right thing to do. For crying out loud, it was the absolute right thing to do. General, you go ahead. He's got you.
Good news, 139 kids are graduating from Challenge Academy today. 22 weeks ago, they were all dropping out of high school.
It's a great, great man, and all the things that he said about the Guard, we could be talking about him all day long. I mean, great man, doing a great job, and he's got his plate full, that's for sure. I really think what we probably should do is just let you ask questions now, you know, and yes, sir.
Who's the new Commerce Secretary?
Well, I don't know quite yet. You know, really and truly, I'm looking. We need to find somebody really good.
And I may have missed this in some of the reporting that has been going on or in the great scheme of things, but how do you get a $17 million change order that you guys had to pause to look at to change to 8 or 9 million or 10 million, and how do you get these, how does something like that get approved by somebody, I guess it was the general counsel?
Yeah, it wasn't approved.
Okay, but I mean, how does that even move forward? Was that a part of the problem?
That was part of the problem.
That the system failed?
And again, I'd be happy to sit down with you and go through this in great detail. It's probably, we'd be here most of the morning for me to explain how things started from beginning to end. But the bottom line is the first part of that contract, which was phase 1 and 2, was done the right way. Then Commerce signed a $17 million contract without any review by our purchasing division or by the Attorney General's office. We discovered that and said, oh, you can't do that.
When you say Commerce, all the way up to the Secretary?
It was signed by the General Counsel, Deputy Secretary. Deputy Secretary, General Counsel. I personally asked him, who drafted this contract. He said he didn't know who even drafted it, which again raised a huge red flag for us when we told him the contract was void under West Virginia purchasing laws. They, even though the pause had been initiated, that agency tried to make an end run on this administration, and they went to purchasing and asked for a change order for $17 million, even though they've been told to stand down. So that shows how they operated against this administration. We had already been to purchasing to have them review the contract and tell us, hey, this is a void contract. So as soon as they showed up over there asking for the change order, we get a phone call from purchasing, well, hey, they're down here asking for a change order. So we let them go through the normal process of what they do, and they are ultimately denied the change order, and Commerce is basically stuck in the water. And that's what we've been able to go back, and we hope legally negotiate something that is effective and legal, and also at the same time, as the governor said, it's going to save millions of dollars in the kids.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Governor, is Ray Carey under consideration for Commerce Secretary, or might he be made acting secretary until you find someone permanently?
I don't know that Ray would do it. Ray's very qualified and brings an awful lot to the table, but I don't think he'd do it.
What about the calls for your resignation from the Democrats?
Well, let me just get into that, okay? Because this will be really fun from my standpoint. You know, I really try really hard to not hit until somebody hits me. And then I'm going to really get back. You've got Roman Prezioso and Tim Malley, who have been here forever. They're lifers. They're political lifers. Please, someone, pray tell what in the political lifers that they've been here, what they've achieved. You know, this state, when I walked in the door, all these things right here, we've taken a bankrupt state to prosperity. We've had total education reform. We've had a 5% across the board pay raise. We passed a Roads to Prosperity bond referendum that no one would have even tried. Nobody would have even tried. We passed almost $3 billion of road bonds that'll put thousands upon thousands of people to work and actually make our roads better, and passed it by 73% of the vote. A higher percentage of the vote than Donald Trump won in the state of West Virginia. Now just think about it. You know, we have taken on this drug epidemic. We sent the National Guard to Huntington when we had an issue down there. We exempted the veterans' retirement. We upped the correctional officers' pay. We put out the fire in Parkersburg. We've got an easy pass thing coming. We've got an entire tourism campaign that is completely different. We're going to find a solution to PEIA. We've got sports gaming. And I totally support medical marijuana. I can't read those over there, but there's a box full. Now I've done this in 17 months. I walked in this door 17 months ago, and that's what's changed. Now, if you would like me to just sit in there and do what's done in the past, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm all over the state all the time. I drive myself. All these things over here. I take no salary. I'm not on DEI. I drive myself. I buy my own gas. I pay for everything for the state policemen. I feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, I don't have parties at the mansion where it's on your dime. I don't fly on the plane unless it's an absolute necessity, and I've done that about 5 times. I've been on the state helicopter 1 time. Now, I don't believe in wasting the state's money. I didn't come here to waste the state's money. I came here to do all this. Now, some way, somehow, we miss this. And we got 2 full-time lifers that haven't done anything in my book. No, full-time lifers. Now, what does it sound familiar to? What does it really sound familiar to? Here's what it sounds familiar to me. It sounds familiar to President Trump. President Trump has gone out and put this country on a pathway that is unbelievable. Obama ran us off a cliff for 8 blooming years in every way under the sun. almost tripled the federal debt, absolutely ran us off a cliff in every way, stagnant, everything coming or going. President Trump, the stock market's at 25,000. He's over negotiating with the North Koreans. For crying out loud, jobs are coming back. Jobs upon jobs upon jobs. What's it sound like? It sounds like West Virginia, doesn't it? And you know what Roman and Tim sound like? They sound like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. Now my dilemma on this is just this. I couldn't really figure out whether Roman was Chuck or Nancy or Tim was Chuck or Nancy. That's my biggest dilemma here. Which one is which? But you know, I figured it out. And here's how I figured it out. Because Roman carries in his wallet a picture of when he played high school football in his high school football uniform, and he dies to show it to everybody coming or going. He showed it to me twice. So really and truly, I guess if he was a football player, he needs to be Chuck. And Tim will say is Nancy. Now, and so in my world, that's all they do. That's all they do. This is my world. This right here is my world. You know, Tim and Nancy can stand and throw the rocks all day long. That's my world. On day one, when I walked in here, I said we need to have on day one, I said education should be our centerpiece. We should have a 2% pay raise for the teachers, right on day one. Where did the biggest pushback come? I had it done. I had it done. You know, Tim Armstead had enough votes for me, and we had it done. And you know who stood in the way? Miley. Miley stood in the way. Now he runs through the streets saying, I'm for the teachers, I'm for the teachers, I'm for the teachers. Where was he? We had it done. Done. Now I'm going to tell you, you got a great man right back there in President Carmichael. You got a great man wherever he is in our speaker, the Speaker Armstead, and we've got a lot of good stuff that we've accomplished here in every way. You've got a lot of great Democrats in this state. I have said over and over and over, you do not need to be a Democrat or Republican in this state. We need to all be West Virginians. Now listen to me and listen really good. At the end of the day, too many people have been here. Too many people have been here too long. If someone needs to resign, it's probably Miley and Prezioso. You know, really and truly, I have been said, I'm sick, I'm going to resign, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and everything else under the sun. I just keep my head down and keep turning out results for you. In all honesty, just to tell it like it is, the most recent result is just this. Every day there's people going in that Pleasance power plant up there. That plant would have been closed hands down if it weren't for my relationship and me with Donald Trump. Hands down. It'd be over. That's all there is to it. The coal deal that I've got in front of the president right now that you read about in the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or whatever like that, where'd that come from? I put it right in front of you the other day. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do that job. I'm not supposed to stand back and say, oh, the governor ought to resign because of this or that. I'm telling you right straight up, the pause didn't do anything but help us. And I'm telling you just straight up, that's what I've done right over there. It doesn't matter if I do it in the back of a Suburban or I do it on top of the dome. I don't go anywhere. I don't leave this state. I don't go to my yacht. I don't go anywhere, ever, ever. I'm here 24/7 all the time. I don't go home on the weekend and don't take calls until Monday. I don't do that. I'm available 24/7 all the time. And you know what I do? I get it done. I get it done. Now, you can say what you want. Prezioso can say what he wants. One other thing, and that man right back there, this is absolute truth, we were at the last day, at the last hours of the first session that I was here. We had a deal. We had a deal. Twice during that day, Roman was in my office. Twice. And I discussed things with him and everything else. And at 11 o'clock, Craig Blair comes running in the thing and says, the Democrats are all going to vote against this. Absolutely, there was almost every single item in it that was directly directed at the constituents of the Democrats. I ran upstairs and said, what in the hell are you doing? I was absolutely furiously mad, and I don't get that way almost never. Almost never. Now, and you know what they said? Well, if we do this, we don't know if we'll get reelected. Is that what you want? If that's what you want, really? Then you're going to be 50th forever and ever and ever and a day. It took a lot of courage for Mitch Carmichael to step out and do what he did that night. And really and truly, we threw it right in the trash can. Did we not, Mitch? Yes, sir. Threw it in the trash can. Now, no, it's not right what they're doing. It's not right what they're saying. That's what's right. The other thing I would say to you is just this. You find something. You find something that I've told you that we should do in this state. Find something that I've said that we should do. Find something that is the wrong thing. I said we ought to tier severance tax on coal and gas. Wrong? You know what? We screwed it up. But everybody on board, we should have done it. I said we ought to put a 5% buyer's fee. We had the contractors behind it on all the successful bidders on all the road work. And then bucket all the money and use it to combat the drug epidemic. We let it go. You can't win them all. You can't win them all. But for crying out loud, I'm not going to tell you something that's not right. Yes, sir.
Is everything on there accurate? I mean, I'm looking at state auditor data now that says you didn't take a salary last year.
Well,
Donated it all back to the Department of Education, every bit of that. It goes directly, in fact, it goes directly from his pay account here over to the Department of Education.
How many
Direct
credits
deposit.
you say you took? You said
And I'll say this, that is the auditor's issue. He tried to waive the salary, they wouldn't let us. We tried to run legislation so he couldn't have to take a salary. They killed it upstairs in the Senate. So now he has to, then he had to start writing checks back to the Department of Education. We finally got the auditor's office to agree to do direct deposit over to the Department of Education. So every net of his salary goes directly over there to the working programs in the schools. And again, he would give his gross. So they're getting after-tax money, but that's not his doing. That's the doing of these other agencies that wouldn't go along with him giving back every dime of his salary.
Governor, how do you square all this with the constitutional requirement that the governor reside in Charleston?
I'll let you answer that.
There's domicile and there's residence. That mansion over there, I noticed they've got furniture in there. He stays in there. If he wants to go back to his house in Lewisburg, I know prior governors went back to their homes on weekends and evenings. So I'll tell you that I think he declared this as domicile right here.
Again, I just go back to this, you know, why do you want me to spend the state's money? Why do you want me why do you want to craft me into something that basically is what we've done in the past and it's not gotten anything done? Why do you want to do that? You know, I mean, we've proven how to be dead last. We got that down pat. For crying out loud, it's high time, you know, that we just, I mean, the world now truly respects America. And there's all kinds of wonderful things going on. The nation is beginning to open their eyes to West Virginia. Same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
The way I interpret the Democrats is they were asking you to be not only physically present, but mentally and emotionally present. And one example that they gave was that there were people out in communities who were frustrated with RISE and the Commerce Department, but who were calling the governor's office to say, we've got this red tape, I don't understand, they haven't gotten back to me. And I took the Democrats' view to be that if you had been here, you might have overheard, someone might have approached you to say, look, there are problems that go back months when people call.
I mean, you have to understand the way the process works. You know, we have a constituent service here that takes those calls. They are trained to direct those calls to the responsible agency. If somebody calls in here and says, hey, I'm having problems with getting my driver's license, they call DMV and see if they can facilitate that being corrected. Nobody in this office physically goes down to DMV and takes the driver's license picture, right? So as these calls were coming in, as those emails showed, they were being directed over to the RISE program. And they were being directed over to the RISE program well before the pause. So we had every reason, and that goes back to the underlying thing the Democrats are saying. At the same time, they're putting the blame on the administration, and they're exploiting the virtue of the secretary. We had every confidence in that secretary and the people over at that agency that they were telling us the truth, that they were getting the job done, because that's what they were coming in here every week and reporting. Hey, this program's hitting on all 8 cylinders, it's working well, people are getting served, and it wasn't until the end of January we had reason to question that. And then we peeled back the layers, we saw there's some real problems over there. So we had every reason, every justification to rely on the information that the leaders you put in place are telling you the truth. So everything that came in here went to where it was supposed to be taken care of, and we had every reason to believe it was. The same instance with the thing at Clendenin. We met with those people here in the governor's office, the mayor down there. We heard her problems. The very day we called our district and said, hey, you need to get down there and take care of this. They said, yes, sir, we'll move out today. And then we find out it was probably a month before the first visit happened. Those are things that you have to be able to rely and count on the people that you put in place. And if you can't, then we'll have to find new people.
I understand what you're saying with the process, but my experience in my workplace is sometimes outside the process, you hear of a complaint from the janitor or the guy who's got to keep the roof from leaking. You just hear it because you're around, out in the hallway, you make conversation.
We're in constant contact. We do every bit of these. But again, you don't, if somebody calls and goes, there's some water out here in the front door, we don't call him and tell him that, we call the janitor and say, can you clean this up? You know, there are certain, those people will call one by one. I tell you, some of them I call personally on my cell phone at night and talk to them. And then the next morning was told everything's taken care of, only to find out 2 weeks later it wasn't. You know, that's the kind of things, there are people here in this office that know where to put problems, and that's what we did. That's our job.
Speaking of the mayor, she's watching this on the feed. She sent me a couple of texts saying she met with you folks in November. Nothing happened. Met with you folks in March. Nothing happened. And here we are almost July 1st.
She did not meet with me in November. I met with her in March only. And again, we told the DISA people the very day, hey, there's some concerns down there. You need to go down there and see them. And we didn't see them until the media came out. She brought the letter to the governor's office yesterday or the day before. That was the first time we became aware here that our folks have not gone there and they're taking care of her needs. Yesterday, we brought that to General Ware's attention, and there was somebody meeting with her this afternoon.
Governor, there's just a perception sometimes among people who live in West Virginia that the governor lives in the governor's mansion, and that the governor comes to work in the governor's office, and the governor's in charge. The governor's running the show. I'm not disputing that you're not in charge of running the show. But how do you comfort, calm, persuade, or whatever step that you think you would need to do to let people know that, hey, I'm in charge, I'm in touch with what's going on, I know what's happening here, and we're taking care of it. Because we hear sometimes that things get told, and then 2 months later you can find out it didn't happen. I know that happens in a big bureaucracy, but how involved are you, and how involved do you need to be?
Ken, I'm not going to sit here and defend myself. I've told you before, there's not a living human that you've ever known that works as hard as me. There's no way.
I'm not talking about your work ethic. I'm talking about the appearance. Our appearance is important.
Okay, just listen. If you want what we've had in the past, you know, then be honest and say, we're going to sit here we could very well be sitting here and saying, oh gosh, we're going to have to close Concord College. Oh gosh, we're going to have to cut the teachers. We're going to have to go to a 70-30 PEIA. Oh gosh, what are we going to do? Where are we going to turn? We can't take any more out of rainy day. If you want that, then you didn't need me. And now, here's the thing. Last night at 11:20, I got a text from Bray. I've been on the phone with other people and all that kind of stuff. I got a text from Bray about 10:15. At 11:20, I texted back, said, if you're still up, call me. He called, and we talked to probably after 12 o'clock. It's normal. It just is normal. There is nothing that goes on here that I don't know about. Nothing. Nothing. This world today, believe it or not, has cell phones, and it has all kinds of neat little things, and we can use them, and that's what we do. I am telling you, you don't need me sitting, just waiting for someone to walk by. You need me doing what I'm doing. Yesterday, at I don't know, 3 o'clock, I was in Bluefield at WBVA doing an interview there. Then I left there and I went to Northport. And you know what I did? I went down there to look at the gymnasium where Jennings Boyd won all those basketball championships, and to see if we could do a dedication to a bridge down there called the Blue Demon Bridge, and do something to try to help those people down in that area of the world that are hurting beyond belief. Now, when I left there last night, when I pulled into my driveway last night, it was 10:30. Now, look, if you think you can keep up, I challenge any of you, keep up. Keep up. There's nothing. There is not one single stone that happens here that I don't know about if my people will tell me. Now, if I'm sitting in that office, they got to tell me too. That's all there is to it.
Governor, many people viewed Woody Thrasher as the point man in the China Energy deal or memorandum of understanding or whatever this is going to be. With him gone, is it possible this thing's going to fall apart? A lot of people thought he was the linchpin in making it happen.
Well, yesterday, and then I'm going to turn it over to Brian, because that's a really important question. But yesterday, I don't know if you could call it the head of the Chinese delegation, got in touch with Austin Caperton, because Austin had been over there on trips, and he wanted to talk to me, and I got on the phone with him, again, using that remarkable thing we have in the world, the phone and everything, and I got on the phone with him from McDowell County. And at that point in time, I assured him, wait a minute, where's my phone, man? Bring me my phone. I assured him that things would proceed ahead exactly like they have been in the past. I'm going to read you this. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to find it, I promise you.
There's a text for me in there.
Well, I can't find it. Anyway, nevertheless, it basically said it was from Austin Caperton, and Austin Caperton said after I had talked to the leader, of the Chinese delegation, and assured him that things would proceed ahead as they had proceeded in the past or better. Austin's text back was, and I think the fellow's name was Lind, L-I-N-D, but he texted back and said that this physician, this Mr. Lin, after my discussion with him, he passed it on to his superior, and his superior was ecstatic about us being able to continue with what we've done in the past. Now, Brian, let's talk about China just a second.
Underlying all of this and how the horn came to light, our office was already conducting an investigation into Commerce on some matters that had to do with China Energy. Nothing with China Energy, was doing. It was internal to the Department of Commerce. Those matters have now been turned over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, although it was the opinion of the special attorney that we hired under my office, in my opinion, in looking at it as a former prosecutor, that perhaps those things weren't criminal. They were certainly improper. We turned that over out of an abundance of caution. So when you saw legal bills that everybody wrote about that said all this was all about Horn project and all that, that was not correct. That attorney was working mostly on the China piece. What we had was we found many ethical issues over at Commerce because of the way the program was being run. There was a program called Excel, where individuals were allowed to come into that program that had inherent conflicts of interest. Those conflicts of interest became manifest, so we were able to stop that, tamp that down. You had issues where the attorney over there tried to go back and recreate documents after we initiated our investigation, after they realized that we had found out what was going on over there, and that is what led to one of our primary reasons for directing that he be terminated. So that information that got put out over there that he was nudged out, that's not accurate on several occasions. The secretary was advised to terminate his employment. We would find out again. A week later it hadn't happened. A week later it hadn't happened. Finally, our office had to direct the secretary in writing that person be terminated. So these are things that we were already working on, and that's when the Horn project, the RISE project came into our vision, and we continued the investigation on into that. So I'm happy to discuss more of that again. An all-day story. I'd be happy to discuss it after this, and anybody wants to listen.
Because I'm a little confused. Are the legal issues you're raising regarding China Energy, or the
No, they had nothing. No, China Energy had nothing. Nothing is wrong with China Energy and its agreement with the state of West Virginia. This had to do with internal problems at the Commerce Department that caused us to initiate an investigation regarding employees over there and how they were running some of their programs.
You've turned information over to the U.S. Attorney's Office for possible criminal
Well,
prosecution?
again, it's the opinion of a former U.S. attorney and I that it didn't appear there was really a criminal intent. But that's something that the prosecutors will have to look at. That's not our job. Our job was to initially go in. It's like if you hear noise in your yard at night, first thing you do, you look out the window. You don't call the police first thing over the noise in your yard. The governor directed us to go find out what's going on over there. I want to be transparent as possible. Anything you find out, I want to make sure that the responsible authorities know about it and they have a chance to look at it. That's actually what we did. We took 6 months worth of email, looked through 10,000 emails. We signed officers from various agencies here within state departments to look into that. Once we had a picture of what was going on and the discrepancies over there, then we directed certain action be taken against individuals. And we had, again, you have agencies that you direct things to happen, and then you see that the action doesn't occur. You believe it has or will. You have to put faith in those leaders that you put in place and expect them to do what you're told, what they're told to do. So that's how we actually came across the Horn stuff, because and the RISE program, we were always told the year prior. Again, they would come over and have these meetings. They had their PowerPoint presentations. They had their charts. Everything's going great. We're off and running. People are being served. So we had every reason to believe that, until we got in there looking at what was going on with some of their programs and how they were dealing with their visits to China, how they were using individuals that probably shouldn't be involved in the negotiations, those kind of things. That's when we kind of stumbled across and said, hey, something's also going on here with the RISE program.
Was Commerce operating as a rogue agency?
No.
No,
Were there elements of it that were operating?
No, here's what I think. I think people, just to tell like it is, a lot of times people can get in a position and things start developing into where you're big timing everything, and you're running in a lot of directions, and I mean, I think you should talk about the payback of monies too.
It was a situation, I would suggest that ends justifying the means, corners being cut to get to where they needed to get to, and what, quite frankly, appeared to be, an entrenched, don't call it bureaucracy, but just a way of doing business that had predated us, that rolled on over. It's like, what we're doing is great things, don't bother us. We got this, but details were being missed, ethical obligations weren't being followed. We got in there and figured out what was going on, and put a stop to that too. In addition, there were state monies that were spent unlawfully. He directed that we asked those individuals and those companies to pay that money back, and that money's been paid back to West Virginia. And I would suggest that you probably had instances in past administrations where just losing money here is just another Tuesday. So hopefully somebody won't find out about this. That's not the way he tells us we operate. We operate $23,000 travel-related expenses, and that's been paid back to the state of West Virginia every time. That happens because he says that's not the way we do things around here. People don't take what they don't deserve or what they're not entitled to. And that was the charge I got day one here from him, that we're always going to be transparent. We're always going to let people know what's going on. Again, one thing led to the other. We found out more about this rise than we probably were expecting to. All information we were getting up until the point we realized something was wrong is it was operating perfect. We clearly know from the general's interview that it wasn't.
What triggered this investigation? Because I thought it was the foreign contract change that caused you guys to start looking at Western Commerce. What
We were already in commerce.
Actually, that's the thing you don't know. Here's the thing. We were already investigating commerce.
What triggered you to do that?
Again, it's an all-day story. How it started. I'd be happy to, anybody wants to write about it.
You can't tell us the general, just like that.
We received a press release regarding the loan guarantee that's been associated with the gas hub that had nothing to do with China Energy. The individual associated with that is an outside party, but had also been working in commerce, or working with commerce. We heard some information in that some things did make sense, and we started looking into that. Again, just one fact leads to another, and then that caused us to go, why is this person behind the curtain at commerce if they're an individual on the outside? That created an ethical dilemma. And from there, that's when we started getting the email capture to see, okay, what's transpiring over there between all these people. And it became aware at one point, commerce had pretty much looked like given the China strategy, the lead in that to a person that didn't work at commerce.
Who's the person?
It's a company here in Charleston. I'd rather.
Governor, more changes.
Still, given it's down there in Charleston.
Are more changes coming to commerce?
I'm sorry?
Are more personnel changes coming in commerce?
There's more realignment. There could be more personnel changes, yes.
More terminations when you say changes?
It's possible.
I don't want committing to the deadlines of like, we're going to get a call, like you said, 5 days. I want to see some more people fired. So
But I mean, there could,
we're not doing it. We're going to investigate.
review is continued.
Yeah, as we had said, phase one of this was stop the problem.
Here's the whole thing, and I welcome you to do this. I welcome you in every way, because I am an absolute open book. I welcome you to look under every rock, under every curve, under everything. You're not going to find something that I do that's not right. You're not going to find anything. Now, and I will promise you this, if I see stuff here that's not right, we may have, in the past, for crying out loud, I'm not casting stones and said, well, we did this in the past, this in the past. A lot of this business as usual that we did in the past. Just think about it. Somebody be fair. The people of this state don't deserve us taking advantage of it. The people of this state do not deserve us to take their money. They deserve somebody that's going to stand up and say, that's not right. And I'm not going to stand for that. That's exactly what I did. When we found out there was something that didn't look right about the China situation, we started an investigation. And we brought everybody on board. We brought the legislative oversight, the U.S. Attorney. We brought everybody on board immediately because we didn't like what we saw. The people abusing the state airplane or abusing this, everybody just, running here and there and doing their thing. Things that we didn't think were right. People that were there at China maybe representing their own special interests. We didn't think it was right. And so what we did is we started the investigation. And then along the way comes right across our desk this Horn invoice or change order for $17 million on a contract that was for, the original contract I think was $900,000. How do you have a contract for $900,000 and a change order for $17 million? I mean, guys, I just didn't roll off the pistol truck yesterday. I mean, for crying out loud, that throws up every antenna in the world to me. And I said, what are we doing here? And then we even got pushback from Commerce. Oh no, it's good. It's good, it's good. And then we even found if they signed up even more houses, maybe they would come with more money. Is that not correct?
The way the contract was written, said for the first three, and again, they admitted it was vague and where it didn't mean what it said, those kind of things in the legal world don't work. But it was based upon the first 300 applicants is how they earned that full money. So our concern was, okay, you're telling us there's 1,000 homes. Now Hoyer has told you there's about 450. We knew their number was not right to start with, but we took them at their word of 1,000 homes. What happens when the contractor comes back and wants paid for the other 700? Are we going to have another change order? And nobody can answer that. So that's when we said, you've got to stop and let us figure out what's going on before it gets up. Western, I'm going to tell you, this, I've never seen anything like it since I've been here, is how we just keep throwing money out. Change order after change order. We got an OASIS system that's what, $20, $25 million in change order. People come in here and say that they'll sell you orders, they give you a limit, then you got to pay to fix it. That's not what we're doing here.
There are 3 people out of Commerce. Are there anyone still remaining that need to push back to those questions about the contract?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first
There are
part.
3 people out of Commerce. Are there anyone still remaining that need to push back to your scrutiny of the contract?
With regard to the RISE memo, we understand as of yesterday afternoon that Secretary Thrasher had directed the memo be produced. It appears to give us information in the administration. However, the information, as I had said, was the data that said there's 55 homes under construction and all that. That was provided by the contractor, the local person. The local person is not in West Virginia anymore. The contractor has removed that person from West Virginia at our request. When we, the senior staff, traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Assistant Secretary of HUD, now remember that's supposed to be an internal memo. That memo was in the hands of the HUD representatives in Washington. So obviously that memo had been leaked to HUD in an effort to, again, sabotage the administration. I have identified the person over there that did it. His excuse is, well, I thought HUD should be updated on what was going on. Now clearly HUD, and I advised them yesterday evening, they were given false information. And that goes to, I had this story that you've been posting documents online, and the story referencing my letter and saying that HUD had been misinformed and that wasn't the state's intent. That letter was directed, and I don't know if, I assume you have a copy of the HUD letter that came into Woody Thrasher. Down in paragraph 3 of this, HUD is telling us they've heard that West Virginia intends to take that grant out of that agency and move it to another. And we also intended to take the money away from the housing and move it into economic development. We had never made those decisions. So somebody disclosed to HUD, assuming out of Commerce, that the administration had made these changes. Nothing could have been further from the truth. So that's why my letter said what it said. That's why we made the trip to Washington. So it's very clear that it appears they realized the wheels were coming off when we stepped in and said, you've got problems. And then they just tried to push the gas and make it across the finish line, hoping if houses got built and things started, we would back down.
Can I backtrack to the $23,000 that was paid back? Who paid that back?
The company that individual's employed by.
Which company? What business was it?
It's a business here in Charleston, and with that stuff sitting downtown, I would rather not get into names of individuals that aren't within government, but I'm happy to share the story of without.
Transparency. Full transparency.
Well, again, I don't feel like I'd be comfortable discussing and disclosing the name of someone that's not involved with state government. If it's downtown and they might be looking into it, I don't want to put names out there like that. But I could tell you as far as our agency goes, the Commerce Agency, there were people in there, and I don't care to share those because they work for the state of West Virginia. But I don't want to, and if they say it's okay, I'll at some point maybe disclose that. I just don't want to put out stuff that I maybe shouldn't.
Well, what were the flights? Where were they to and from?
I think what the governor's reference is just the overall use of the state plane from Commerce just to fly to like Morgantown for apparently like have meetings, fly back. You know, like one person, two people might get on our state plane and fly up there. It costs us $3,000. But I can tell you, everybody in the governor's office, if we have to travel to Morgantown, we get in our personal cars and drive up there. You know, so it's just that, you know, he said, big deal kind of thing going on where, you know, we fly, you know, just abuse of what we think is our state's resources.
We on a flight where we flew some people to Chicago that we're looking into. We have, you know, just every time you spend $1, every single time you spend $1 in this state, and there's billions that you're spending. And so $1 doesn't seem much to the billions, but $1 seems to me to be a lot to somebody out there on the street. We shouldn't be doing it. That's all there is to it. We just shouldn't be doing it. You know, and I did find the text from the individual. His name is Dr. Ling, L-I-N-G, I guess Wayne, or it's L-I-N-G-W-E-N, capital W-E-N. He's from China Energy, and he wrote back, you know, dear Governor, many thanks, and on and on. So that was, but
the trip he's referencing to Chicago, that was part of the $23,000 payback. We flew an individual by himself who wasn't employed by the state of West Virginia to Chicago to catch a commercial flight at a cost of over $4,000.
Are you saying the state plane should not be used at all, or rarely, or?
Of course not.
I mean, well, I'm just trying to.
We have since put policies in place that they're now, request has to come to the governor's office.
we absolutely ought to use the resources within the state, and we ought to use them wisely.
Yeah.
We ought not to abuse. I mean, for crying out loud, you know the difference between doing something that is a necessity versus doing something, you know, to fly your girlfriend somewhere. I mean, and I'm not saying that happened, but you know the difference in that.
Sorry, we're jumping around. Back on the HUD letter, one of their concerns was that they hadn't been looped in on the pause situation, the examination of the contract. Was that addressed?
Well,
among the
that goes back to the issue I think you and I discussed on the February. We told Commerce to initiate a pause on execution of the contracts themselves. We didn't tell Commerce to shut down. We didn't say quit doing your reports to HUD. We didn't say quit taking constituent calls, not addressing the public concerns. So that's where I'm not sure a disconnect or whatever happened over there, but they weren't told to stand down completely. They were told these contracts are probably void. We need to figure out a legal way to either reinstitute them or enter into new contracts. And that's all they were told to do. So it's information I think being put out over there. Where they were claiming, the sky, you know, and they were the ones that were in daily communications with the local HUD representatives in Charleston, in Pittsburgh, and in D.C. And they obviously communicated to those HUD individuals because even prior to this letter, I had phone calls from HUD individuals in Washington wanting to know what happened. I explained to them on the telephone what we had initially found, scheduled an appointment to go to Washington and meet with them, and that's when the letter came after that. And then I answered them in writing, and then we scheduled a visit. We expected that visit to occur, I believe, 2 weeks prior to when it did, but they had to cancel because they had to emergency where that assistant secretary had to go to Houston or somewhere like that. So we intended to have this, again, we put the investigator in there, he started interviewing witnesses, we started trying to come up with legal fixes through our purchasing division, took it to the legislative auditor. The first day I found out about this, we went down and saw the legislative auditor and said, hey, can you put some people on this, lawyers and counsel, figure out, initially what you can see is going on, to give us some assistance. They gladly did that. We appreciate that. That goes to now. We have worked out an agreement with the legislature that I think is unprecedented, and that is their auditor's office is going to be working inside Commerce at their discretion, trying to find this stuff out in real time so we don't have this game of, well, we got you and we're going to send you letters after we see something on the news and you come and answer these. We said, come in here, see what we're seeing. If you've got a fix, shout it out and we'll all work together. And they decided to do that. And I think that's going to help us to do it.
But if you have contracts and you say, well, these may be no good, don't operate under these contracts to be here otherwise, then can the work truly continue that's governed by this contract?
No, I'm saying the work under the contracts wouldn't have continued because we didn't want to spend money under those contracts. But nobody told the employees at Commerce, quit doing your job, quit taking constituent calls, quit telling them that, we can't tell you what's going on. Nobody told them to do that. Nobody told them, don't file your reports with them. Don't do the things you've done to do. Don't communicate with those people you're supposed to communicate with. We're not sure what happened over there.
Governor, you asked us to give you 30 days. It hasn't been 30 yet, but are you happy with the way RISE is working right now?
Delighted. I'm delighted with what's going on. The general's doing a wonderful job. Everybody's communicating. Everybody's moving forward. You see results happening. I'm delighted. I'd like to say one thing back, Mark, on this. You asked about China and the progress with China moving forward and all that and everything. Think about how did the China situation with West Virginia happen? How did it happen? And I can tell you just as simple as mud how it happened. It happened through a friendship with myself and Donald Trump. Donald Trump realizes wholeheartedly that China has a terrible trade, or we have a terrible trade imbalance with China. And he is on those people and on those people like stink on you-know-what. And absolutely, he is pushing them to invest and do things to bring that trade imbalance in line. So how does West Virginia come into being? Do we really think it came into being from our Commerce Department? Of course it didn't come into being because of that. It came into being because of the relationship between the two of us and the president really trying to help his friend and help what he loves, and he loves West Virginia. That's how it came in line. But we haven't lost one thread of that. Not one thread. We still got a president, we still got a trade imbalance, and you still got your governor. Now, what we got to have, and we don't want to deny the good work that Commerce did or that Woody did, because people, they did do good work. There was too many problems and too many errors and everything, and that's why we had to do what we had to do. A really tough decision, a good friend, a tough decision, a really tough decision. But nevertheless, everything is, all the pieces of the puzzle that were there in the beginning are still there right now, and we'll find an adequate replacement. The show goes on. The show goes on. That's what you do.
All right, speaking of the president, I got a text saying he's made a commitment to play the program at the Greenbrier. Is that true? You heard from him?
He's done what now?
That he's going to play in the Pro-Am at the Greenbrier Classic.
Well, no, I don't think he'll do that and everything. The reason he's going to do that is because there's no way in the world that he can play in a Pro-Am anywhere. Nobody could possibly protect him with all those people around it like that. It couldn't be done.
You mentioned ethics and conflicts of interest and making sure that everything is done above board. And there have been a lot of questions. You're relying, it appears, on Mr. Kerry quite a bit. And he has the involvement, obviously, with EQT and the natural gas industry. Does that raise any red flags with you or give you cause for concern that is there a conflict of interest? Is there a perceived conflict of interest in case discussions about natural gas and legislation and policies in the state move forward? Because some people are uncomfortable with him being in that position.
Well, Kenny, let me say this. Bray Carey is the most unlikely person in the world to have a bond with Jim Justice. Nobody on the planet beat on me worse than Bray Carey beat on me through the election process and everything. And Bray called me about everything you could possibly call somebody. So how is that? Well, you see, I don't carry bad thoughts with me. I don't. And really and truly, Bray Carey is an extremely talented man that genuinely loves our state. Bray Carey really and truly makes not one single dime being here, but he works his tail off, and he's a worker, and he's got knowledge. And from my standpoint, I try to use that knowledge. The most unlikely of friends in the world, and I'm using his knowledge, never one time do I feel like that there is any type of conflict with EQT. Nothing. If we get into a natural gas discussion, many times he has excused himself. Many times that I've said, Bray, you shouldn't be in this and everything. But really and truly, never one time has he asked me to do anything that I would remotely think that it could be tied to a favor or anything toward EQT. Never one time. But yet, it's just as simple, guys. You've never had a governor that has this many tentacles, and all through everything that I have, you're going to always be, I'll never possibly be able to please you on every single thing all the time. I say constantly, look at the body of work. Bray Carey's a successful guy. He's done a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of knowledge and everything. You'll be able to find something about him that that you could report or say something bad about. I'm just saying to you, no way in the world should we do anything other than applaud Bray Carey for coming in here and doing all the good work he's doing because he believes in the goodness of West Virginia. What is he getting out of this? What is he getting out of it? I mean, $8.75 an hour for 15 hours? I mean, what is Bray Carey getting out of this? Do you really think he's after power or influence or whatever it may be? I mean, or maybe he's trying to sneak something by me as far as EQT. Well, I'm going to tell you this, you can mark this down, mark it down. I tell people all the time, I said, there's one song that you've got to always remember about me, and that is, he knows when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, he knows when you've been good or bad, so for goodness sakes, be great. Because I am telling you, and I don't care where you look, in any company that I have, anywhere, people know that. Because I'm working all the time. They know it. There's no way in the world Bray Carey's going to sneak something by me. There's no way in the world people are going to sneak stuff by me. They're just not going to do it. And when they do, and this organization is so blooming big it's unbelievable, but when they do, I'm going to call them right to the carpet. That's what I'm going to do.
But does he work more than 15 hours a week? I mean, I heard his time card say he works 15 hours a week. He seems to be here an awful lot.
Well, I tell you, he could probably file a claim against us because Bray probably realistically works 80 hours a week. He's working all the time. So is this gentleman, so is Mike Hall, so is a lot of people in my group.
Any reason to call a special session next week with the legislature being here? They're not going to be back in September.
We don't really have
anything or anything else?
anything that we've had enough interest in that anybody's made us spend.
I really hate like crazy that we keep stumbling around over this medical marijuana. I'm a real supporter of it. You got people out there that really are probably could use the help, that are hurting, and I hate that we keep stumbling around that, but we're kind of waiting on federal government and people to guide us on that. But I don't think there's anything right now. Okay, guys,
Thank you,
I've
Governor.
answered every question. Thank y'all. Thank you, Mr. Bass. Thank you, Mr. Zucker.